Hi, my name is Stephanie and welcome back to my channel. So today I will be addressing what happened to my PhD applications, because maybe you've seen my previous video about my job applications, and if you have seen my video uploaded in like September-ish about life after uni, you're probably wondering where the PhD applications come in at this point, as I've only addressed the job side of things. So first of all, I have been pretty 50-50 on either pursuing a PhD or DPhil or finding a job. And like I said in my life after uni video, it is going to come down to the details for me. Quite simply because there will be some jobs that I'll take over a PhD, and there will be certain PhD and job combinations where I would go for the PhD over a certain job offer. So I should probably elaborate on that statement a bit further. So I did my bachelor's in French at the University of Amsterdam, and later I decided to do a master's, and I ended up doing my master's in modern languages, so essentially again French, at the University of Oxford, and I've now recently graduated from there. And Oxford very much has this mindset that's very geared towards doing a PhD. So for me it was sort of pretty normal to think of doing a PhD after a master's, as I think about half of the people who were on my degree that I got to know either decided to go apply for a PhD or had a PhD offer lined up to go straight into that after their master's, and the other half either already had a job lined up or decided to find a job. And I was sort of in the middle there, because I was like, well, there is no crossroads and I have to go a way and I don't know which one. And sort of the problem for me with French and doing a PhD is because that French is a humanities subject. I would think, why is that a problem? Let me explain. In essence, it just comes down to the lack of funding. So in the UK, it's fairly easy to get yourself on a PhD spot within the humanities, but it's very hard to find funding. So if you compare, for example, applying to US unis for a PhD spot and UK unis for a PhD spot, in general, it's sort of the way that getting a PhD place in the UK is way easier than it is in the US. But if you get a place in the US, you automatically get the funding, the stipend, the everything. While in the UK, you just solely get that place and you don't get the money that goes with it. So you're faced with a choice, if you have a place at university, to either fund it yourself or go out and find funding by yourself. And that means your tuition fee, but also your living costs. And if you're doing a humanities subject like I would be doing, it's very hard to find funding, because in essence, I'm not gonna, clean up the planet, or I'm not gonna cure diseases. I'm not gonna do anything along those lines. I'm just looking at French literature, which obviously I find very interesting and I think it has something to add to the world. It's just very hard to find funding for. So getting accepted into a PhD program did not quite seem as kind of the biggest hurdle that I was going to have to take in order to do a PhD, but it's the first step in the process, obviously. So I did some research. I looked at a bunch of universities and I decided to apply to 5. And those 5 were Oxford, Cambridge, UCL, SOAS and Brown. That was my final decision. And controversially, my dream uni to do a PhD was SOAS, and that might actually surprise you, but the area of French lit that I'm interested in is the area that SOAS covers. So for me, SOAS is definitely the place to be. And on top of that, I wanted to stay in London. I currently live in London. As much as I absolutely love Oxford and the amazing time that I've had there, I do want to stay in London. So I don't want to move back to Oxford, if that makes sense, or in that sense move to Cambridge. So I decided that it would probably be way more fun and also way easier to just live in this city where I'm studying. I'm pretty sure the commute would have been possible because it's not that far away, but I just wanted to live in the same city as to where I studied. So I decided that SOAS would be my number 1 choice. Then I had UCL, then there would be Oxford, Cambridge, because obviously still prefer Oxford over Cambridge, and then there was Brown. And Brown is a complicated one because it is actually in the US. So first of all, it's way out of London. It's not actually in London, and it's a 6-year program, because PhDs in the UK are only a 4-year program. The ones in the US tend to be a 6-year program. So that would be another massive commitment. But on the other hand, if I would have managed to get a spot at Brown, or most likely would be fully funded, I would get a stipend, all of that sort of finance stuff would be been way easier. Anyways, so that was sort of where I was at. So placing Brown currently at the bottom, but I really don't know where to put it because it's so far away and a longer program, yet they would have given me a stipend. So I'm not really sure where to rank Brown in this whole thing, to be fair. So anyways, I started emailing professors, I started the application process, I started to make accounts on the websites, and PhD applications are a lot of work. Besides filling out all the application stuff and writing a personal statement and all of that sort of thing, I also had to worry about my research proposal, which had to be good. And obviously you're supposed to talk about your research proposal with your professor who might be able to guide you through the PhD process, if that makes sense. So you sort of start like perfecting it, and it's a lot of work to create sort of the first draft of your research proposal. At least I spent a lot of time on it because I wanted to be really good and really focused and really express on the things that I'm interested in doing research and how I think that would benefit the greater good, essentially. So I spent a lot of time doing that. So besides working on my PhD applications, I was also working on my job applications. And then all of a sudden it happened and I got a job offer. A job offer from a company that I actually really liked. So then I was sort of faced with a decision of, would I pick a fully funded PhD offer over this job offer? And I had to think very hard and very good about that. And I decided to make a pros and cons list and just wrote every pro and con down about either picking the job or picking a PhD. And in the end, I decided to go with the job offer, which we all know if you saw my previous video. And I had several reasons as to why I ended up making that particular decision. So first of all, I am, at the time I was 24, currently I'm 25 years old, and I will be starting my PhD if I would have started a PhD at 25. A PhD in the UK generally takes about 4 years. Sometimes it takes a year longer, so let's say it takes 4 years. Then I would be done with my PhD at the age of 29. And I have very little work experience, so that would be me, a 29-year-old with a PhD and very little work experience. So I was not quite sure how that would sort of pan out in the end. And also the fact that if I would decide to do a career switch and that I decided not to stay in academia after doing my PhD, I think it would be extremely hard because obviously I cannot apply as a 29-year-old or a 30-year-old to a grad scheme, which is essentially meant for bachelor students or master students at Mac. I was a bit iffy on that part of deciding in favor of a PhD. And my second reason was, again, also age-related, because I am 25 now. I finished my degree when I was 24, which was my master's. However, here in the UK, I am quite a bit older compared to my British peers. In essence, most of the UK grads who graduate from their masters are about like 22 years old. And actually, most students in the UK do not decide to do a master's, so they go out onto the job market when they're like 21. And I am 25, or at least I was 24 when I graduated. So there's quite a bit of an age gap there, which has to do with the fact that I did my bachelor's in the Netherlands, and in the Netherlands it's very common to have study delay, which I find very annoying because it means essentially that if you start a 3-year degree program, it's very normal to take about 4 to 5, 6, sometimes even 7 years to finish a 3-year program, which to me is just a very strange concept. But in the UK, if you start a degree and it's a 3-year degree, you'll be done after your 3 years unless like something happens. But generally, if you start a 3-year degree, you're done after 3 years, and if you start a 4-year degree, you're done after 4 years. Anyways, that being said, that was not the case for me. So I'm already a bit behind on my British peers. And then the job offer. The job offer was from a place where I could really see myself growing within a company, and I think that was also something I very much considered because I didn't want to do just some job and not grow within that particular company. And with this particular job, I would be able to do that, and I could actually see opportunities and that sort of thing. That was also very much a pro pulling me towards taking the offer instead of doing a PhD. And my last reason why I decided against doing a PhD is that there is no age restriction on doing a PhD. I can always do a PhD because I have now the opportunity to try out a different path, explore the working life part of myself, see if that works for me, see if I like that. If not, I can always do a PhD. Even when I'm like 60, I could still decide to just do a PhD. And I honestly think that with the job I have now, which is actually a different job from the job offer that I'm talking about right now, I definitely see myself staying there. I don't see myself doing a PhD anytime soon. But like I said, I can still do a PhD when I'm like 60 or when I am like in my 70s and I'm like, you know what, I'm done with working, I'm on my pension, I'm just going to do a PhD. Who knows? I can still decide to do that in my life. So while there is no sort of age restriction restriction on academia. I do feel that there is more of an age restriction on doing a graduate scheme, as they do tend to hire students who have graduated in the past 2 years, and they sort of search for the under 25 sort of age bracket, and I'm already at the top of that. So therefore I figured that a PhD I can do always, a graduate scheme I cannot always do. So in essence, I had a job offer that I really liked. Just for the record, it's not the job offer that I ended up signing. It's another offer that I just really liked and really could see myself doing that. And I felt that this job was sort of restricted to recent grads, while academia is not necessarily restricted to recent grads. And therefore I decided to go with job offer. I'm sorry if it's like all wild reasons as to why I chose a job over a PhD, but this is the process that happened in my head, and I decided to not go with a PhD. So I ended up withdrawing all of my applications, and this also means that I cannot share the outcomes of my applications with you, because I either not submitted them or withdrew my applications. And yeah, so we'll never know if I would have gotten a PhD offer or not. I decided to do this because I didn't want to take anybody else's place, particularly because funding is such a pain. And so yeah, that's what happened to my PhD applications. A job offer happened. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video explained the PhD part of my story. I hope you found this helpful, because it's a difficult decision when you're just fresh out of uni, you've done your master's degree, and you're at this crossroads and you have to decide. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and comment and subscribe, and definitely let me know if you are going to do a PhD, where you'll be doing it and what you will be doing it in, because I'd love to hear that. And I see you in the next video. Bye.